Okay, let's dive in. We are looking at what might be, the single biggest geopolitical and economic shift of our lifetime.
No exaggeration there.
We're talking about the reemergence of Asia as the global center, and our source for this deep dive is Parag Khanna's really foundational book, The Future is Asian.
A must-read for sure.
Our mission today isn't just to, give you a summary. It's to fundamentally challenge the narrative we so often hear in the West.
Which is?
That Asian ascendancy is some kind of global disorder. We need to stop seeing it that way. Instead, we're going to try and understand this new Asia-centric system, commercial, cultural, diplomatic, that's taking shape right in front of us.
And that reframing is so critical. Because the whole premise here is really a clash of worldviews.
How so?
Well, after the Cold War, Western powers genuinely thought their system had won.
The liberal, democratic, capitalist model.
Exactly. The whole package, symbolized by things like NATO, the IMF, and, of course, the economic principles of the Washington Consensus.
Right, the Washington Consensus. For anyone who's not familiar, that was basically the West's blueprint for the world economy. Market liberalization, deregulation, free trade.
And the assumption was everyone would just get on board eventually.
That history had sort of ended.
Right. But Khanna's work shows that most Asians see their return to the center of the world very differently. It's not about adopting a Western model. For them, it's simply their natural destiny.
A reclaiming of history.
A historical reclaiming that was, in their view, inevitable no matter what the West did after World War II.
That is a powerful distinction. It's not about them catching up to us. It's about the world returning to a historical norm.
Exactly. And to get that, you really have to drop the traditional Western-centric view of history.
Where we sort of start the clock with, Greece and Rome?
Precisely. And that framing makes the last 500 years of European dominance feel like the baseline. But if you just zoom out, the whole picture changes. Asia was the global center for millennia.
Okay, so let's recast that history. Where do we start?
We start where civilization started, in West Asia, Mesopotamia, Anatolia. We're talking about fortified settlements, continuously inhabited cities.
Like Jericho.
Jericho, Byblos, Aleppo,
Yeah.
places that go back to 7,000 BC. The sheer depth of that is staggering.
And it wasn't just isolated pockets of civilization, right? The connectivity was there from the start.
Oh, it was incredibly sophisticated. By 1500 BC, you have the seafaring Phoenicians. They're devising the alphabet that the Greeks would later adopt.
The foundation of our writing.
And then inland, you've got these nomadic Scythian tribes managing a colossal trading network. It linked the Greeks, the Persians, the Indians, all across the steppes of Central Asia.
So it wasn't just about trading silks and spices. There's something else holding it all together.
There was a cultural glue. Buddhism, spreading out from India, became this hugely important cultural moral connector.
How did it travel so far?
It moved through empires like the Kushan and was carried by intermediaries like the Sogdians.
Ah, the Sogdians, they were the key, weren't they?
Yeah. They were like the multinational middle managers of the ancient world. They laid the foundations for those legendary Silk Road cities like Samarkand and Bukhara. And from there, it went deep into the Han Empire in China. It was a network of shared ideas.
And you mentioned in the prep that the Silk Road on land is only half the story.
Not even half. The maritime routes were often much more significant, more volume, faster travel.
So that's how we see Indian influence spread so far south.
That's exactly how. This robust sea trade led to the deep Indianization of Southeast Asia. You can still see it today in incredible architecture like the Srivijayan Kingdom's temple at Borobudur in Java.
The largest Buddhist temple in the world.
The largest. The point is, this was a rich, multipolar, deeply integrated system for thousands of years.
So when you put it all in context, that period of European dominance, say from 1453 to the end of World War II.
It was an anomaly, a 5-century blip in a 7,000-year story.
And if you see it that way, what's happening now isn't global disorder.
It's just Asian ascendancy, a return to the mean.
Which explains why we're seeing these huge geopolitical shifts. These former buffer zones are now pivoting hard to the east.
Let's start with Russia. Moscow's pivot to the east strategy actually started before the U.S. announced its own pivot to Asia.
And it's not just a political preference, is it? It's driven by pure economic need.
Complete necessity. Russia is taking on massive Chinese investment, especially in infrastructure. The power of Siberia gas pipelines are the most famous example, basically binding their energy futures together.
But it goes beyond just oil and gas.
Oh, absolutely. Climate
Yeah.
change is, ironically, speeding this up. The warming climate has allowed Russia to basically double its wheat harvests.
Wow.
And they are cashing in, positioning themselves as Asia's 21st century breadbasket. They're tripling grain exports to hungry East Asia, but also to arid places in Southwest Asia like Iraq and Saudi Arabia.
That's a fundamental rewiring of global food supply chains. And we see a similar, though kind of different pivot with Turkey.
Turkey's shift is more about political rejection from Europe than economic need. I mean, years and years of being told no on EU membership. It pushed Ankara to look elsewhere.
So they're leaning into their history.
They are leaning hard into their Turkic, linguistic, and cultural ties across Central Asia, the area historically known as Turkestan.
And this is more than just talk, they're building things.
Real things. Turkey's a core member of the AIIB, that's the China-led infrastructure bank, and it's building freight railways, upgrading ports on the Caspian Sea, physically connecting Anatolia to Central Asia.
All these pivots create a system that's much less dependent on the West. The real growth story is intra-Asian trade, right?
That's where the greatest share of global trade growth is coming from. Asia's subregions trading with and investing in each other.
And the engine behind that is a concept Khanna calls aging Asia investing in young Asia.
Exactly. You take the high savings, advanced economies, Japan, South Korea, now China, and they're outsourcing high-tech manufacturing to younger, lower-wage countries.
Places like Vietnam, Indonesia.
The Philippines, yeah.
Is the wage difference really that big a deal? I mean, does it justify moving an entire factory?
It's the absolute driving force. A factory worker in China might make, say, close to $30 a day. In Vietnam or Indonesia, you're still looking at less than $10 a day.
That's a huge gap.
It's irresistible. And look at a company like Samsung. They have something like $18 billion invested in Vietnam, making their smartphones and electronics. This isn't just about cheap t-shirts anymore.
It's about advanced supply chains.
Sophisticated manufacturing. It's fundamentally reshaping where the world's most complex goods get made.
And this shift gets really politically charged when we look at West Asia. The old bargain was Western security for Arab energy.
And that bargain is breaking down. The Asian-Arab nexus, decoupling from that, just follow the energy flows.
Who's buying the oil?
China and India are now the biggest buyers of Iraqi oil, not the U.S. And look at investment. In 2016, China put $26 billion into the Arab world. The U.S., $7 billion. The gravity has shifted.
Which brings us to a really provocative idea from the book, the rise of the petro-yuan. How real is that? Is the dollar's dominance really under threat?
It's a very real possibility, and it signals a fundamental crack in the existing system. For 50 years, the petrodollar has been king because Saudi Arabia agreed to price oil only in dollars.
Right.
Now, there are very serious talks about Saudi Arabia starting to sell oil to China, priced in China's currency, the renminbi.
And what's China's side of the bargain?
Massive, stable investment in Saudi Aramco, in their infrastructure. If that happens, it starts to chip away at the dollar's global role. It forces huge transactions to happen completely outside the U.S. financial system.
And the security picture is turning on its head, too. It seems like the shared threat of Iran is creating some very strange alliances.
Strange bedfellows is right. Israel is rapidly integrating into this broader Asian system. They're coordinating, communicating at a high level with Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Because they all see Tehran as the main threat.
Their regional interests have aligned. And look at Saudi Arabia, for decades, a U.S. security client. Where are they getting their new military hardware?
They're looking east.
They're becoming an eager buyer of Chinese missile systems, Chinese drones. And here's the critical part. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, the Saudi response probably won't rely on the U.S.
Where would they turn?
The expectation is they'd get the nuclear components they need from their longtime Asian ally, Pakistan. The whole security matrix is shifting.
Okay, so this massive economic rewiring naturally leads to the third pillar here, governance and technology. If Asia is succeeding on this scale, what's their model? Because it's not Western democracy.
It's not. The key insight is that for many of these nations, stability and prosperity come first. Democratic inputs are secondary.
This is the rise of technocracy.
Right, and it poses a really big question for all of us. What political system actually works best in a world that's getting more complex by the day?
So how do you define a technocratic government?
It's a system that is meritocratic, utilitarian, and focused entirely on long-term planning and performance. It tries to avoid the short-term cycles of populism you see in many democracies.
And the classic example for decades has been Singapore.
The poster child. They are relentless. They focus on societal agility, they maintain near-zero unemployment, and they use KPIs, key performance indicators, to monitor public services.
They run the government like a high-performing company.
And I have a fascinating view on data. They use democratic inputs like detailed surveys of the poor, the elderly, the youth as performance data to steer long-term policy. It keeps them responsive without the political gridlock.
Then you have the China model, which, has produced incredible economic results, even if they are unequal.
It's often described as consultative authoritarianism. It's built on these deep Confucian ideas of meritocracy and planning for the long haul. You see it in the training regime at their central party school. They believe in policy agility, which makes them more adaptable than, say, old-school rigid dictatorships.
And even huge democracies like India are borrowing from this playbook.
Absolutely. The Modi government is trying to balance what they call India's unruly politics with technocratic discipline.
How are they doing that?
They've explicitly drawn inspiration from Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore's founder. They're reversing some of the devolution of power and creating these powerful federal think tanks to drive policy from the top down to ensure consistency.
Okay, let's switch to technology, because this is where Asia is just leapfrogging.
Yeah.
The book suggests China could surpass the US in AI as soon as 2025.
It's a staggering prediction, but it's based on two things. First, just raw data. The massive proprietary data sets from giants like Alibaba and Tencent give their AI models a huge advantage.
More data to learn from.
Mountains of it. And second, there's some specific linguistic innovations. The sheer complexity of Chinese characters actually forced companies like Baidu to make faster advances in natural language processing, NLP, than their Western counterparts.
And it's not just in the digital world, it's the green transition too.
Asia completely dominates the hardware for sustainability. China, Japan, and Korea make over 90% of the world's lithium-ion batteries.
90%.
And China's BYD is now the world's largest electric car maker. They are building the next generation of everything, from high-speed rail to the double-decker buses in London.
The final piece of the puzzle is just the sheer scale of urbanization. 1 billion more people in Asian cities by 2040. It's almost impossible to comprehend.
It's like building a city the size of London every 2 years. That necessity is driving unbelievable investment. Asia now accounts for 60% of the world's infrastructure spending.
Creating new cities from scratch.
Turning second-tier cities into high-tech hubs, building specialized economic zones. This massive internal build-out is the foundation for their continued growth and their independence from the West. So what does this all mean for the world you're living in? The future isn't going to be, a Chinese world replacing an American one. It's going to be a fusion.
A mix of Western rules and Asian practices.
A dynamic mix. But, and this is the key, the global standards for what counts as economic success, for what good governance looks like, meritocracy, technocratic focus, long-term planning, those norms are increasingly going to be set in Asia.
And understanding this shift is so vital for you, the listener, because history shows us that the societies that win, the ones that achieve stable, sustained success, they're the ones who get to write the rules for tomorrow.
And by almost every metric, commerce, conflict, culture, Asia is gaining ground.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you to think about. If the universal challenge for every country is accelerating complexity in geopolitics, economics, technology, which model is better suited to handle it?
Is it Western democracy, which champions representation but often gets stuck in political gridlock?
Or is it Asian technocracy, which prioritizes performance and collective stability above all else? According to this new worldview, the ultimate test of a nation's success isn't about democratic inputs. It's all about tangible delivery outputs. Something to mull over as you watch your own government try to grapple with these same global issues.